This goes until 4 o'clock this afternoon. So I'm going to step off to the side. I'm going to run the radar for you. I've got a little bit of return in my ear too, so we'll get that taken care of. And as we take a look here at the next about half an hour or so, we're watching as this storm system continues out of southern portions of Ford and Livingston County, northern portions rather, and making its way into southern Kankakee County. Again, this goes until 4 o'clock in the afternoon. The main part of the storm we've been watching, and it's crazy that we're coming to you here on a December afternoon talking about this, is again this area coming out of Clifton going to Sugar Island and St. Anne. So this is in extreme southern portions of Kankakee County at this hour, and it goes until 4 o'clock this afternoon. So 2 areas of rotation. I'm going to go ahead and pull up the actual velocity data right now so I can show you where I believe this is rotating. And again, there are very small areas of rotation in here, but there's been a couple that we've noticed. Again, one just out of Clifton, which is right there. You can kind of see those greens next to reds. And then one as we've extended this now off to the eastern side of I-57 and into southern portions of Kankakee County. So really in our viewing area, this is on the very southern fringe of our viewing area. I'll kind of doodle in the area that we're concerned with viewers. It's right here, St. Anne up to about Pembroke. This area is the very beginning and southern fringes of our viewing area, which of course we would never leave out of this. But as this system continues to move off to the north, we could see these extend off to the north along with it. What's happening? A line of storms kind of crossing over a warm front, a rare warm front that is this warm in our area this time of year. I'll kind of lay the lay of the land out for you in terms of those temperatures here. It's 56 right now in Chicago, 63 degrees in Indianapolis. This is what we call the warm sector. And when we talk about spring and even fall severe weather, this is the area right around the low, the area of low pressure, which is just off to the west now of Chicago. This is the area we always focus on. It's not very often that we do it at the very end of December, but here we are with an extremely cold front, strong cold front, because again, it's 63 in Indianapolis, it's 70s in Kentucky, and then it's 17 back to the Twin Cities. So there's an extreme gradient between warm and cold air, and that's what's driving these storms along the line. These are relatively low-topped severe thunderstorms, well below the 50 to 60,000 feet. We can still sometimes see these tops during the spring and summer months. But that being said, there is rotation in the very lowest levels of the atmosphere. And I've been watching these rotate all the way since out near the Champaign area and Bloomington. So these do have a history, and we have seen a history of tornado warnings. So again, tracking these out, and if you live in southern Kankakee County, you're going to be familiar with the spots that I'm going to list off here. And as this moves off to the north and east over about the next half hour or so. Areas like St. Anne, probably within about the next, well, about 20 or so minutes, 15 or 20 minutes, and then out to Beaverville shortly after that, although that is after this warning does expire at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. What's going to happen with this is it's not going to be super compelling velocity data, although I will note that outside of Clifton, that is a good area of rotation. So this will probably be the spot that I really focus on. There was one just off to the north here along I-57 too. First of all, you got family or friends in town and they're heading out of Chicago and they have to take 57 off to the south. Now's not the time for them to go. They'll be driving right through that cold front. But this will be the area that we watch and track because that is downright good rotation, especially given the time of the year that, again, we're talking about. I'll keep going back to that. But this, even in the springtime, will go ahead in fall time and elicit a severe thunderstorm and tornado warning, which is, again, that box that we see out at this hour. So I want to spread out the view. I want to show you kind of what these velocity data readings are looking like at this hour. Again, this is staying just off to the south of the technical southern bounds of our viewing area, but with that warning box drawn up off to the north, and with this northern area of rotation up here, just off to the north of Clifton, I do want folks to be aware in southern Kankakee County that we could be talking about this all the way to the 4 o'clock hour. So we've got about 18 minutes that we'll spend together looking at the radar data. Again, going back to velocity data, I do kind of want to tag a couple of these and see what kind of wind speeds we're talking about at this hour. The radar beam out here is pretty high. I want to say it's like 4,500 feet. off of the ground. So we're not getting super low level samples. Again, there's the warning. It goes until 4 o'clock. That first warning that you see that stops at Clifton goes until 3:45, and then the additional one out off to the north and east goes until 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So I'll strip those warnings off. So I'm going to pull the boxes off. We all know where the rotation is, so we don't need to worry about the box anymore. And again, I'll throw down a couple of markers on that rotational data. So there's 18 miles per hour of wind going in one direction, and then we got about 20 or 25 miles per hour wind going in the next. And again, that's in the mid or upper levels of the atmosphere. It's going to be higher than that down at the bottom of the storm. And of course, the velocity data changed, so now I got to click again and get new stuff. So there you go, 40 miles per hour. And then on the other side of that, we got a pretty good one at 36 miles per hour in the opposite direction. So what you're seeing here was that minus 40, and I got to do it again. Sorry about that. You got a minus 40, and then you've got a 36 direction. So you basically add those. One's on one side of the zero, so that's going in the direction of the radar. The other's in the opposite side. Notice the plus sign there, or the lack of a minus sign, going in the other direction. So that is a solid. And again, this is in the middle levels of the atmosphere, getting up to about 4,500, 5,000 feet. That's a solid 70, almost 80 miles per hour of rotation over a very small area. And again, I'm going to pull this off so you can see where that route is and where that area of rotation is that we're concerned. That is a good old-fashioned tornado warning, again, that you would see any time of the year. So I'm going to pull this off. I'll give you a couple of locations. Again, if you're from this spot and you're familiar with these roads, that's Route 45. So we're now off to the east of I-57. We are not in southern Kankakee County. We're south of Sugar Island, and we're on that county route, Route 45, which extends south out of the southern edge of Kankakee County and Kankakee itself, and goes all the way south and continues south basically along the county border all the way down to Ash Grove and eventually down to Pigeon Grove and off to the east of Champaign, well off to the east of Champaign, kind of between Champaign and Danville. So that's 45, and that is where the rotation is located at this hour. And I'm getting some messages from the National Weather Service chat room, receiving damage, reports of damage on the west side of Pontiac, across from the Caterpillar plant. And then a delayed report, number of messages about Pontiac and 2 homes with roof damage, large emergency response. And that is a pretty tight what we call rotation couplet, which you'll notice now has disappeared from the radar. And that's going to be the case through about the next 20 to 45 minutes. We'll continue to watch this area of rotation, and you'll get stronger ones like we saw where there was that 80 miles per hour of what we call gate to gate, where you have the positive and the negatives right next to each other. And then there'll be times like this where it starts to weaken a little bit as the storm cycles. Now, the good news is that as this does move farther north, really with every mile that it moves farther north, it's getting out of this dramatically warmer air and starting to go into some less supportive, cooler air up north of the front. Now, the front itself technically doesn't really cool down, and the winds don't change until you get into southern Michigan, but for all intents and purposes, the really good low-level rotation is located right along or just south of the front. You don't even want it to begin to cross that warm front to continue seeing rotation on these storms. So if you're just joining us now and you expected to see the Gulf that was on, sorry to disappoint you. That is not on at this hour. We're talking about this tornado warning that just came out for extreme southern Kankakee County. When you look at the ABC7 viewing area, I'll spread out the view. We cover all the way up into southern portions of Wisconsin. We go all the way out to Interstate 39 here into Calhoun and LaSalle counties, and we go all the way down, stopping just short of Livingston County, but going into Kankakee County and also Will County too, just off to the north of that, and then Newton and Jasper County too, out in northwest Indiana. If there is a tornado warning for any portion of that viewing area, we're of course going to come on the air. We're not super Chicago-centric. We're not super DuPage County or northern portions of Cook County or McHenry County or Lake County, Illinois, or Indiana-centric. Really, anybody in our viewing area treat completely equally. So again, I know this is just a sliver of our viewing area, but it doesn't matter to me. We're going to be on anyway. We're going to be talking about it because every single person in the viewing area is equally as important. So if you do live in southern Kankakee County, or again, if you got folks that are headed south out of Chicago, they're going down I-57, that is a bad route to be taking right now. Of course, that would be going back down to Champaign. You'll notice here there's a couple of tornado warnings that are even off to the south of Champaign. So like I said, I've been watching this line, thin as it may be, only a couple miles wide, for the better part of the afternoon. I was into work at 1 o'clock, and we are already starting to see some of those tornado warnings pop out off to our south. Now, there is a tornado watch, and that does extend, and you'll notice they're continuing to update this into the southern reaches of our viewing area. Originally, when this came out about an hour and a half ago, it stopped just south of Kankakee County. It did not extend into Newton and Jasper counties, but as that warm front has inched up off to the north, we've had to extend it to the southern portions of our viewing area for exactly what you see at this hour. Some of these fringe storms that are, yes, now making it out of the absolute best, juiciest support and into the stuff that is a little bit more borderline, but still, as we saw, enough to elicit rotation. Again, with it in mind that a lot of people are trying to hit the roads and the highways and get from point A to point B, whether that means coming from Indianapolis and coming into Chicago for the holiday, for the New Year's holiday, or perhaps going from Chicago and back down off to the south or vice versa on 57. Equally important, 57 and 65, not great spots to be traveling for this afternoon. If you have family that are heading out of Indy and they want to get to Chicago by later on tonight, or going in the opposite direction, probably not a very good idea, especially to be leaving at this hour, because you'll go right through that line of storms and into the tornado watch area. And that tornado watch down near Indianapolis, I want to say it extends until 8 o'clock tonight. It might even be a little bit later than that. Well, technically, if you're in Indianapolis, you're on Eastern time, as the computer has very helpfully just illustrated that for me. So it's 8 o'clock Central time. It goes until 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. So keeping that in mind and going back to look at the storm, because I feel like we've had enough time to get a couple more areas of rotation, or a couple more scans on that area of rotation, and it still does look like we have that decent couplet that is now out of the Clifton area. So taking a look again, St. Anne is in there, Sugar Island. It stops just off to the west of Leesville. Again, this watch, or warning rather, goes for the next 10 minutes until 4 o'clock, and I wouldn't be surprised to see if they extend it a little bit later than that. Now, judging just by this trajectory, if you live in St. Anne, I wouldn't be so worried about it at this point, because it does look like it is going to pass off to the south of you, but it will be areas that are into this spot that hasn't quite been highlighted just yet, the Leesville area, that if this gets extended past 4 o'clock, then we are going to have to be more concerned. You'll notice, and I'm noticing too, that this is now flashing pink. Now what that means is that it is now not just a tornado warning, but since we had seen that good rotation that I talked about, this is now a confirmed tornado, and there is a debris signature that is showing up on the radar data at this hour. So taking a look again at this velocity data is very clear to me. Again, if I was looking at this in May or June or July, I'd be saying the same exact thing. That is a good looking area of rotation that is south of St. Anne. If you are in St. Anne, though, good news is this is going to pass off to the south of town. Bad news, I still want you in your safe place for tornado warning. That would be in the lowest level of your house, in the center of the house, and away from all the windows, because this is turning into an actual observed tornado on the ground. So it is now a confirmed tornado. That's why that box changed colors to the pink color. That helps us here. When the National Weather Service sends out the warnings and they update them, they've got like little almost hashtags inside of them. So as soon as we get the hashtag that it's confirmed, or a PDS, which is a particularly dangerous situation, we will see these change color on air, so we don't even have to worry about going through and parsing and reading the text. It's very useful when you're alone and doing severe weather like I am. So the St. Anne area is where we're watching at this point. So I would say, again, if you live in St. Anne, it looks like the worst of the rotation is going to pass off to your south. But still, with a decent circulation, which I would say has broadened a little bit on the most recent radar scan, there is still certainly a tornado ongoing. This is off to the south. If you've ever driven this in this area, you know these road signs look like this. I think that was 7,000 South Road. Yeah, East 7,000 South Road. And there's a local name for it, too. I can't see it, of course. It gets a little bit smaller. It's Illinois 1. There you go. So again, that is right north of the border here on the extreme southern corner of Kankakee County. So continuing to watch this, again, broadening the rotation just a little bit. I actually have to go over to a pallet and grab my debris signature stuff, because we don't, yep, there it is. We don't usually use this time of year. So this is not something that usually I'm looking at. So here's the line as it passes through. And then you'll notice that right there as it pops on right near 1 and then continues off to the north. That is a TDS, tornado debris signature, showing up pretty well. Now what that means is that the radar itself has seen something that doesn't look like raindrops to it. The radar that we have are what are called dual polarization. So they send out one beam that's in the X and Y axis, and then they send out another beam that's on the other axis. And what they can do is they can see the shape of hydrometeors, whether that be a hailstone, a raindrop, or really anything else. And it takes that data and it sees how round the object is that it's looking at. If it's a lot longer than it is wide, well, it's not very round. It's probably not a raindrop. It's probably a shingle or a 2x4 or some corn stalks that have been ripped up out of the ground, which are already up out of the ground now, some soybeans or something like that during that time of year. So what it is seeing, that radar, is essentially debris that has been kicked up from that tornado. So we did see that debris signature. It's something we're watching very closely, and we're going to watch and see if this tornado warning gets extended. So we've got 7 more minutes left on the warning itself. My gut instinct here is that this will get extended through Kankakee County and will probably be with you as this moves into Newton and Jasper counties, just given how it looks on the radar at this point. But that being said, of course, in the same breath, I'm taking a look now, and just the very nature of this moving along the warm front and having really shallow support means that this rotation will likely be transient. So what we're seeing at this point is a cycling of the storm, perhaps a weakening of the storm, but there's a chance that really at any other scan that this will tighten back up again. So what the National Weather Service is probably going to do is, as we get a brand new scan and I analyze it just as you're seeing it on air, they're going to be doing the same. This looks even less intense than the last couple of scans, and I'll show you, and you can even see, it doesn't take a meteorologist to see the weakening of those scans. So here's where we had nothing. I'm going to actually back it up a little bit. So here's the very beginning of the warning. You can see those greens next to reds very clearly on the radar scope. And then right about 10 minutes after this is where we had the tornado debris signature. And then as that moves off to the north and east, you'll notice that we've seen just a little bit of weakening, of broadening of that rotation. There's the best rotation, and there's some of that weakening that has gone on. I'm going to put this on a loop for you. And again, you can see how it's gotten a little bit broader. It's gotten a little bit more diffuse from that really tight, compact rotation that we had about 15 or 20 or so minutes ago. So continuing to watch this here, again, through southern portions of Kankakee County. That's really good news, this latest scan. When they really amp up the radar, and they're watching severe thunderstorms or tornadic thunderstorms in this case, we can get a scan. You see that scan beam whizzing by. You can get a new scan in every about 1 to 2 minutes, even sub 1 minute if they really want to amp the radar up. And I think that's the mode that we're in at this point. So good news, again, on the very northern edge of this is it looks like the scans are getting less and less intense. Bad news still if you're in St. Anne, rotation right over. I want you to wait for a little bit while longer in your safe place. This is going to continue to scoot off to the north. And these things are moving, by the way, at about 60 or so miles per hour. I'm going to let this cook for another couple of scans. I'm looking at the National Weather Service chat, and I don't see any new stuff that has been coming in terms of new data for damage, because that is a fairly sparsely populated area. But again, this did just move over St. Anne, so they're going to be checking in there. It has weakened just the last couple of scans, but I do want to show you just the overall picture again of what we're dealing with this whole system. So here's the warm front extending into northern portions of Indiana. Here's the cold front. This cold front is racing very quickly. We'll see gusts 50 or 60 or so miles per hour within the next couple of hours as this cold front moves through. And the temperature of 55 in Chicago is going to drop in free fall, essentially. It's 33 in Green Bay, it's 16 in Minneapolis, it's 18 back in Des Moines. Once we get this cold front through, those temperatures will drop likely by 15 or 20 degrees just in the course of a few hours. Probably going to drop something like 7 to 10 degrees per hour all the way through the overnight until we end up in the teens with wind chills that'll be sub-zero early on Monday morning. So that's a testament to how strong this front is and how odd it feels. I mean, you probably stepped out anywhere really in the viewing area today, and it just felt a little bit like a spring day. So continuing to watch that rotation again through the end of this warning period, which is in the next about 4 or so minutes. And the National Weather Service is now saying, just as I was relaying to you, that St. Anne rotation has definitely weakened at this hour. But they are going to draw up another upstream tornado warning at this point, which I think is pretty prudent too by the National Weather Service to do, just given how this has performed and that it has already produced a confirmed tornado. Storms get a little bit notorious. Areas of rotation along a line, once they have a personality and a propensity to produce a tornado, they like to do it again. They like to get organized and do it again. So what we could be seeing here are these very short-topped supercells cycling right now. So it just kind of choked itself off, and now it's cycling again and trying to get active again too. That is garbage in terms of seeing a velocity scan. That's what you want to see. There is still some very broad rotation there, but it's not those very bright greens next to very bright reds, or in some cases, as you saw, almost like a fuchsia color when we were really watching that thing on the ground. So watching this very closely here, and we're saying now from the National Weather Service, an off-duty National Weather Service employee just reported a tornado near Martinton. So we're going to go ahead and pull out the view a little bit, look around for Martinton, which I'm going to assume is in southern portions of Kankakee County, not showing up on the map right now. So there's Leesville on the board. What they're probably going to do here, just judging from the last warning, and again, I'm just buying time at this point, waiting until we see the next warning come in, as they just extended. I was just going to say that's probably where they're going to draw the box, and this will be the area that we're the most concerned with, at least across our viewing area. So this will probably go, my guess, is to at least 4:30, maybe even 5 o'clock in the evening. And it looks like they extended the southern edge of that too. So what I am seeing on the radar right now is that, yes, there are tornado warnings. I do not see areas that are of concern for like a F2 or F3 tornado, but we could see some very quick, broad spin up. So as we get the latest data in, I'm going to take a look here. Just pause for a second and see how late this goes. Okay, so it goes until 4:30, so we have another half an hour together. Sit down, get comfy. We're going to be doing this again as I readjust our view. So you're noticing how much I have to scan and move this view. That is because these are moving again at just about 60 miles per hour from west to east. So that is almost the blessing here, is they're moving very quickly. The bad part about that is that this is like playing whack-a-mole, because you're having areas of the line that are producing rotation very quickly and then losing those rotations very quickly. So you hop on one with one scan. Looks like there's some rotation here trying to go off to the south of Pembroke. Next scan that comes in here, once that loops back around again, could possibly update that to a completely different area that's off to the south, like say down near Beaversville. So we're doing our best here at this point. Again, as it's a pretty dynamic and fluid situation, I'm going to pull the velocity data off and give you just some thunderstorm data. And look at this. So this has been 15 minutes, and look how far I have to move this map over to catch up with these. So in and out of the viewing area very quickly. So the latest warning here is, again, for southern portions of Kankakee County, and that goes not only through Kankakee County, but also you'll notice into northwestern Indiana, and that is Newton County. So if you're not familiar with northwest Indiana, you got Lake County here, like Gary and Whiting and all that, and then you've got Porter County, LaPorte County, Newton County here, and then Jasper County as well. And if this extends into Jasper County, it would probably go, so you hear my phone binging at me, until about 5 o'clock in the evening. So southern portions of Kankakee County, although it's almost out of Kankakee County, and now into portions of Newton County. So we're going to shift our focus on the other side of the state border and watch these storms again as they move through the McClellan area. Lake Village too, I want you to take your tornado precautions all along Route 41, which extends south. I believe that comes out of like Gary and Hammond. Yes, it does. Whiting, sorry. And then goes all the way south, 41 does, all the way through the area that is warned at this hour. So this goes until 4:30. Look how far I have to move this map, again, over to try and find the new area rotation. And this is the one we are talking about at this point. Really fast-moving storms here. So just off to the south of Pembroke, kind of out near the McClellan area. This is where I'm watching for the latest area. If you live, though, in McClellan, Enos, and sorry if I get it wrong, Roselawn, Lake Village, you want to take your tornado precautions at this hour. Again, because we've got a very fast-moving storm. So these are out well off to the west of 41. It'll take them 15 or so minutes moving at 60 miles per hour to get over to 41. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to put a track on these. About 50 to 60 miles per hour is how fast they're moving. So I'm going to adjust that here within the system. Usually they move, by the way, if you're curious, about 30 to 35 miles per hour. I've seen them move as slow as 15 miles per hour. So the fact that these things are moving at 50 miles per hour means they are absolutely trucking at this time. So I'm going to take that area. I'm actually going to draw a wedge off of it, since there's really not a line that I'm concerned with. It's more of a point. And I'm going to draw it off to the north and west. So like what I say, like 10 or 15 minutes. It's really the better part of 10, 11 minutes before that gets there. So if you live in Conrad, if you live in McClellan, out near 41, even though this is 6, 7, 8 miles away from you at this point, it's going to be pretty close and on top of you within about the next, again, 10 to 11 minutes or so. The good news, again, is we get a brand new scan in. Thankfully, the scan's coming in about once every minute. Yes, it's keeping me busy, but it's also giving us good data, as that is not a scan that I'm overly impressed with in terms of seeing an actual tornado on the ground. But you got to side with the National Weather Service here in terms of issuing another tornado warning, because these are popping up so quickly. And we've already seen, if you were with me since we started this at shortly before 4 o'clock, a confirmed tornado just south of Kankakee County. The last thing I want to see is a 1 to 2 minute tornado pop up right over McClellan or right over Lake Village. I'd rather pop into programming, interrupt it for a while, just so those folks who live there, or maybe folks who don't live there but know somebody who lives in the area, get dialed up on the phone and are knowing that there is a line of severe thunderstorms here in late December that is going to roll through just like a spring round would. Perhaps you were in the Chicago area, DuPage County, northern Cook County, I mean all the way up into Lake County. There are rumbles of thunder with that initial round. Of course, we got the breather, and now this is the cold front that is trying to push through the area at this time. I'm broadening out the view just to kind of take like a holistic view of the entire line. Again, I don't see areas of rotation that I'm in concern for, but we do have until 8 o'clock tonight local time a tornado watch. Kankakee County, you are essentially done with that tornado watch. They're probably going to trim you out of it within about the next hour or so, because we've already seen those storms push through. Same deal in Newton and Jasper counties. You're likely going to be done with this tornado watch by about 5 or 6 o'clock. They'll trim you out of this. Again, it goes until 8 o'clock Central Time, 9 o'clock Eastern Time for areas that are in Eastern Time, like as you get out towards Indianapolis. So if you do have friends or family that are traveling on 65 today, they're going out of Chicago. Yes, the line of storms will be out of Chicago really soon, but areas like Indianapolis will see probably about 7 or 8 o'clock tonight. And I'd hate for you to be driving down 65 and have to drive through this line once, punch through it very quickly, because it's not a very thick line of thunderstorms. I'll show you that. And then have them roll back over you again as you get to like Lafayette or Lebanon or Zionsville or like Fisher, somewhere outside of Indianapolis, because that line is still way back here. It's back in Champaign, and even the storms that they're going to see in Indianapolis are way back here through like Shelbyville. Like you got to get way back in the central and southern portions of Illinois to actually see those storms that'll be in Indy a little bit later on. Good news for Chicago is look how quickly, again, you get north of that warm front, how quickly these storms fizzle out. I mean, just looking at them, they don't look nearly as bad. But if you live in northern Cook County, you might be hearing a rumble of thunder occasionally. If you live in McHenry County, same type of deal. This is that leading line of storms, though, that we were worried about. Heisel Martinez was on this morning talking about this, and right about 2 o'clock to 5 o'clock in the afternoon was when they were expected to roll through, and we got our first warning shortly before 4 o'clock, and this continues until 4:30. So we got about 20 or so more minutes to go. Again, with the speed that these are moving and the fact that we're starting to see that rotation die down a little bit, I wouldn't be surprised if they go ahead and cancel this a little bit early. We've been checking these views, right? Centering up this map all the time. Look how quickly it's moved. Again, these are moving out off to the east to northeast at about 50 or so miles per hour. So I got to drag this all over again to get another view. We'll save that, and then we'll see how quickly these move off of this point. So if you live in Lake Village, if you live in McClellan, the area that was causing concern is getting close to you right now. You can actually see another little bit of rotation. This might be on the backside of the thunderstorms out there near McClellan. That's an area to watch. If you live in McClellan, if you live in Lakeville, again, that's Newton County, Indiana, then take your tornado precautions really anywhere along the Route 41 corridor from Lake Village and off to the south. If you live out in Roselawn, again, not the Roselawn that's closer to Chicago, the one that's in northwest Indiana, same type of deal. That's along I-55, or I should say Route 55, and then 65 too, the highway that of course extends south through Merrillville and eventually ends up in Indianapolis. That's another spot that is not technically in the warning. Well, I guess a portion of it is, but this is the spot on I-65 where it's 2 lanes, it's relatively thin, it's pretty treed, and this is going to move directly from the west out off to the east, and it'll bring a lot of crosswind on that highway day too. Crosswind really on any north-south route that you're going to want to be careful of. Even if you're just a passenger car, those high-profile trucks seeing 50, 60 miles per hour, even if it's not a good old-fashioned tornado, that's going to cause problems. Again, adjusting the view here, the reason that box is pink and not red like you would normally see a tornado warning box is because it was a confirmed tornado just a little while ago. A National Weather Service employee who was off duty had seen it. Spotters had seen it as well. I just want to check in the National Weather Service chat room to see if they're relaying anything. It looks like we haven't seen any damage, confirming damage in Ford County as it moved through that area. Nothing on radar right now, again, as I've been saying to you guys, and no, that's good. They're not seeing anything that I'm not seeing, which is always nice to see, that I'm not missing anything here, because this is a pretty quick moving operation. They've got a whole team of meteorologists in there that are covering everything from the social media channels where they monitor pictures coming in to the actual radar at this point too. And we of course have our social media team looking for pictures too, and they'll pop in my ear if they see anything. So from Lake Village down to US 41, again, still want you to take your tornado precautions for the better part of the next 20 or so minutes. Now the area, when you look on radar, not velocity data, but reflectivity is what we call this, that you would be most concerned with would be this spot from like Roselawn to the leading edge. This is where we can see some of those areas of gusty winds getting picked up. This little, it would be like an inflow notch here just off to the south of Lake Village would be an area that I'd be concerned with, and then south of that too. So again, on the bottom of our screen, yes, the tornado warning is out for Kankakee County. I would be more concerned with Newton County at this point, as it looks like Kankakee County, the threat has passed for them. So here is, I'll draw it in for you. Here is the southern edge of Kankakee County, the eastern edge, I should say, and then there's the southern edge, and all of the storms have now passed out of Kankakee County. So while you still do technically have that warning box out for Kankakee County, I want to go ahead and give you the all clear. You are fine. The tornado area has passed. The storm line has passed out of Kankakee County, but we are still concerned about Newton County here, as they still are in that tornado warning, and really anywhere from Beaver up north along 41 would be my main area of concern. Although this is getting a lot more ragged would be a good word for it. Again, just not overly impressive looking, but you go back just 20 or 30 minutes and you can really see how this line has evolved. So here is, back a little bit more, where we got this warning initiated. It was all the way back in extreme southern Kankakee County, right around the St. Anne area, and just south of that. This was about 3:45 or so. We saw this rotation on the radar. We got a confirmed tornado out of it. We got a tornado debris signature out of it, but very quickly, you'll notice it kind of fell apart. And we've seen fits and starts. There's another scan of that rotation trying to get going again. Here I'll doodle in where there was a decent amount of rotation kind of right there. But really through the last about 15 or so minutes, yes, there has been an attempt to get rotation going back again, but this is pretty diffuse. Again, you're looking for greens next to reds. So here's an area of greens, here's an area of reds. Yes, that's some broad rotation. There's even some broad rotation out here, but that's nothing that I would really be concerned about in terms of laying down a tornado like we saw again, just south of the southern edge of Kankakee County. These will cause street flooding too, as they move through, as the rainfall rates on these are anywhere between about 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch per hour. And we've already got a pretty saturated ground from the initial round of rain that came in. And also just about all the gutters that I saw earlier today were completely full of sticks and leaves and all the other stuff that the plows have scooped up as they've plowed all our snow off the roads, and then it's melted and then blown into the rivers and streams by this pretty quick, and I would definitely say odd for this time of year, heavy rainfall event. Again, I want to spread out the view. We have about 15-20 minutes left on this tornado warning. I wouldn't be surprised if they expired a little bit early. I also would not be equally not surprised if they let it go all the way to 4:30, just given the history that this line of storms has produced. So there is the line. If I were to show a general area that I would be concerned about, it would be right along this leading edge. So from Kentland to Iroquois, Goodland is not within the tornado warning, but that would be at least a spot where you would expect to see perhaps some action. Anytime you see a kink in the line, like right here, where that crux is, that's where you would be concerned. Also, additionally, when you start getting lines of thunderstorms like this, this is some pretty smooth radar data, but any little wiggle that you see in the line is an area that generally you could get some rotation going on. So there's a little wiggle. There's another one. There's one too. So I mentally make notes of these, of course, and then when I switch over to the velocity data, I look in those spots like that other one was out towards Aid, and I look for any sign of rotation along there. And the good news is I do not see that at this point. So we're going to continue because, again, there is an active tornado warning out for Newton County. It goes until 4:30, although these are pushing off to the east very quickly. I would say Roselawn, if you are in Roselawn, go ahead and take your tornado precautions just in case. Center portion of the house, lowest level of the house, and anywhere south of that, too, along Indiana 55 would also be an area that the broad area or threat for rotation is moving over at this point. Again, kind of messy. Don't really see any spots of concern. I'm leaving this up more for me, I know, than for you, so that I can see the moment that the radar goes over and we get a new scan, if we actually have any areas that are going to be of concern. So we've got that tornado warning, again, for Newton County. They may extend it over into Jasper County, although I'm just now getting data in to see if they actually do that to go to the 5 o'clock hour. Again, it wouldn't surprise me if they actually do that, just given that there is some radar indicated rotation occasionally along this line of storms. I'm also going to see if I can switch radars because these are moving so fast that we might be able to get a better view from the National Weather Service radar in Lockport, because we've been using the one out of Lincoln for the last couple of views. So I want to switch that over. Just it takes me a second to see if we've got anything additionally there. I did not see anything. So we are good there, and I'm going to spread out the view again and wait for this new warning, which I believe just got issued a little while ago, a couple of seconds ago, to bump its way into my system. It looks like it would be southern Jasper County. And, okay, so that's where it is. Extreme southern Jasper County and portions of Newton County, too, in northwest Indiana. So we're going to take our focus. Remember I was talking about the crux in the line, the spot that I would be concerned about? We're going to take our focus and we're going to shift it south off of this and onto that line, because as mentioned before, those are areas that the National Weather Service is looking at, and it's areas that just catch my eye. So we're going to have to stay on air until 5 o'clock. I know, hooray. For you guys off to the south, for who live in Chicago and are pretty far away from this, but again, every single inch of our viewing area equally important when we're talking about tornado warnings, especially given the fact that this has produced, at least this line has produced, a confirmed tornado in the past. So I was talking a few minutes ago about the crux in the line. I want to clean up this radar map for you just a little bit to make it easier to see. Areas where you see notches in the line, abrupt changes in direction, that's where you like to see spots of rotation. So here's the line. It kind of vaguely goes like that, right? So this spot right here would be where I'd be concerned of seeing rotation and uptick in rotation. That's also a little bit closer to where the warm front is and also in the better supportive warm air. So that's going to be the spot that we watch, and that will lift ever so slowly north into southern portions of Jasper County, south of Rensselaer, within about the next half hour to 45 or so minutes. So we'll continue watching this. Again, there is not much on radar to look at for this. I'm going to save this radar view. I'm going to have to move this other one because there is, again, so much movement in these storms just over the course of a couple of minutes. And we look at areas, so that's the radar out of Romeoville. I'm going to switch radars and I'm going to go to another one that's a little bit closer than that because this is, again, high up. For that Romeoville radar, the radar beam just doesn't go in a flat line, right? It's angled at about half a degree up. So you're probably getting close to like 7,000, 8,000 feet, maybe even higher than that by the time the Romeoville radar beam gets out to that storm. And since we're looking a little bit farther off to the south, I'm going to switch it back to the Lincoln radar, and we might be able to get a little bit of better data out of that. So I'm going to do that. It'll take a second for that data to pump on in there, and there it is. And we're going to zoom on in, again, on that crux of the line, extreme southern portions of Newton and Jasper County that I want to look at. I don't see any really bad rotation out there at this point, but again, I'm going to continue watching that. We got until 5 o'clock to watch it. And a broader view here within that tornado watch that goes until 8 o'clock this evening, local time, 9 o'clock Eastern time, if we're talking about folks along I-65 down towards Indianapolis. So Kankakee County, yes, you are in the tornado watch. No, you do not need to worry about it anymore. Northern portions of Newton County, yes, you are in the tornado watch. Yes, you see storms right now. Within about 45 or so minutes, at the very most, you're not going to have to worry about it anymore. I know it goes until 8 o'clock, but it's going to tick off shortly before that. So I want to spread out the view a little bit more and again show you why we're in the pickle that we are in, along with this really strong cold and warm front. So here's the warm front, stretches through southern portions of Michigan, northern Indiana. Anything that is below this warm front and approaching the warm front is going to have the propensity to spin a little bit as it gets lifted in the atmosphere. There's a low pressure system. The center of the low is just off to the west of Chicago, and then a cold front that extends off to the south of that. Where all those things come together, the warm front, the cold front, the low, we call it the triple point. And in summertime, springtime, even fall time, and we've got that little kind of shoulder season of severe weather as the first batches of cold air move in, we get concerned about the triple point because what you will see is exactly what we're getting now, where little whack-a-mole areas of rotation will pop up. You'll get a couple of supercells within the line of thunderstorms. They'll produce a tornado for 1 to 2 minutes. The tornado will go away. But we still have to watch it because other areas of rotation will pop up south along down the line. So that's now where we're at this point. It's a pretty good long line of thunderstorms that extends all the way along the south of this low. And you'll notice there are a whole bunch of tornado warnings too, especially through central and southern portions of Illinois. And as you get farther south, out near not only the Champaign area, but this moved through Bloomington earlier, Mount Vernon, Carbondale, all these spots are within the tornado watch box, and will be, at least within the next half hour to 45 minutes, areas that they have to watch. Now, again, for us, you see we still have officially out that tornado warning that goes until 4:30. That purple box on top is going to expire. Most of the storms are out of here. I haven't seen any good rotation out of this, but it's the area here through extreme southern portions of Newton County and into Jasper County that we're now concerned with as the line kind of bends at that point. So I'm going to pull back and go back to the velocity data as we get some new scans in. I'm not seeing anything really compelling in there through southern portions of Newton and Jasper County, but again, it's something we watch very closely, and this is pretty high up in that radar beam. This is a little bit of a hole in our radar coverage. It's not a gaping hole like you see out towards the west where mountains get in the way and stuff like that, but it's enough where both beams out here are relatively high off the ground, and you're not getting the very lowest level of data, and that creates a little bit of uncertainty on what's happening in the lowest levels of the atmosphere. So you always want to be safe rather than sorry when that's the case. So that's the reason we have this tornado warning out right now. Seeing confirmed damage in northern Iroquois County. Remember, that was that tornado that brought us on the air that was looking like it moved into St. Anne, or was in the process of moving to St. Anne in southern Kankakee County. It looks like a barn was blown into a silo and then other debris blown out into a field. Good news about that, by the way, is that appears to have been an abandoned property. So thankfully, nobody, hopefully, was on the property at the time of the damage that occurred. Again, that was out back here through northern portions of Iroquois County and southern portions of Kankakee County, out near the St. Anne area, kind of on the very beginning portion of where that tornado warning got issued. So we have Jasper County, Newton County, again, kind of underneath this broad tornado warning. These are genuinely big tornado warnings and in a scope scale. Usually what you'll see, yeah, they went ahead and warned the front edge of that line. Generally what you'll see, these look more like a severe thunderstorm warning. Generally what you'll see for a tornado warning will be a box that's, I don't know, 2 or 3 miles wide at the very beginning. That widens to about 15 or maybe 20 miles wide at the very widest at the end. What the National Weather Service is doing here is saying this whole line, as we've seen through the past about half hour, 45 minutes on air, is that this whole line is capable of producing brief rotations that'll put down a tornado, EF0, EF1, for only 1 to 2 minutes. Sometimes this actually happens in between radar scans and you can't even capture it. So what we're doing is we're coming on air for you. We're going to stay at least on air until probably 5:15, 5:30. Well, we've got the news after that. And we're going to continue to watch this. But as we go into news programming, I don't want to cover up the entire news, especially especially if there's no rotation going on. So likely we'll step away from that. We'll keep an eye on just broad pockets of rotation. But we'll be with you for at least the next 40 minutes until the news does officially fire up. So I want to take a look here at, again, Newton and Jasper counties, more specifically into Jasper County now, because just over the past 10 minutes of talking, most of these storms have moved out of Newton County. So I'm going to shift my focus along with those. And then as soon as these are clear, honestly, if the warning is still up, we'll step aside, because if the storms are out, then there's no point, again, on being on air. So taking a look here, out near the Roselawn, south of Roselawn, Indiana, type area, little area of rotation there that's possible, broad circulation between about Roselawn and Fair Oaks. Looking farther off to the south, maybe near Mount Ayr, there's a broad area of rotation here. I'll draw them in. Probably doesn't do any use of me just saying. One possibly right here. I could actually move that arrow a little bit farther off to the north. These are spots that we want to watch. So if you live in Rensselaer, if you live in Barkley, if you live in Jordan, those would be in Jasper County, northwest Indiana. You want to take your tornado precautions. Same deal if you live out in Carpenter. That's down Indiana Route 231 and also on the I-65 corridor. You're very familiar. If you've ever driven through Chicago or from Chicago down I-65 and taken the trek down to Indianapolis, the areas that I'm talking about. This is two-lane highway. Out there, there's a lot of wind farms out there too, a lot of farmland as well. And these are pretty wide open areas that tornadoes quite honestly like to organize themselves across because they're flat and there's relatively few obstructions. So watching those two areas of rotation, the good news, and for what I've seen from the National Weather Service, is that they are not watching any specific areas with a lot of concern. Much like I've been saying here, where we've got just a couple of spots that occasionally will pop up and then we wait for another scan and they go away. They're not watching any spots that are super concerning. I'm going to draw a line on this and track it out. Again, these are tracking off to the east at about 50 or so miles per hour. So let's pull up the radar. I'll show you where the leading edge of these storms are, which is right now Rensselaer up to DeMott, and then south to, we'll call it, if anything pops up for me, Iroquois, Percy Junction. We're going to put a line on that and we'll track these. And I'll show you how fast these are moving out off to the east. So this is, again, going a little bit further west and kind of creating a bit of a safety area. And that's 20 minutes. And these are the spots that these move through in just the next 20 or so minutes. A very fast moving line of storms. Technically, the warning goes until 5 or I think 5:30. That ain't gonna last until 5 or 5:30 with how fast these storms are moving. 425 out in Stoutsburg, 426 in Rensselaer, so that's within about the next couple of minutes. The line moves overhead. Again, I am not tracking any spots of rotation that I'm super concerned with, but you guys are all in a tornado warning at this point, so you want to take your tornado precautions, which is the lowest level of your house, out away from the windows and away from anything that could shatter like glass, because these still could have 50 or even 60 or 70 mile per hour gusts along with them. Gillum at about 4:35, and then 4:40, just within about the next 16 or so minutes, they'll be out in Railroad. All of these towns are in Jasper County, northwest Indiana, Rensselaer being one of those towns. So it's been about 2 minutes. We'll probably have a new radar scan in. I will save that view because these storms are moving so fast. I don't want to get behind them. And we'll take a look at our latest scan. And it's the same couple of spots. Not looking super bad, just broad areas of rotation in the atmosphere that we're continuing to watch. What you don't want to see, if this is, perhaps you need a refresher because we haven't been doing this since springtime, what you don't want to see are really, really tight areas of bright green next to really, really tight areas of bright red. Now, broader rotation would be kind of these darker green colors, these darker red colors, somewhere in the vicinity of each other, and that's what we're seeing here with the northern edge of the line. A little bit farther off to the south again, getting a little bit of rotation here, a little bit of rotation out near Mount Ayr too. But these aren't spots that scream to me tornado on the ground. What they do say though is, I just want to look through southern portions of the county just to make sure Rensselaer is okay, and I don't see anywhere that really concerns me there. What you don't want to see though is the next scan come in and all of a sudden you've got the bright reds next to bright greens, because that is exactly what happened about a half hour, 45 minutes ago through northern portions of Iroquois County, and we were concerned about some of those moving into southern portions of Kankakee County too. Spreading out the view, again, watching these line of storms, look how fast. This is just the last 3 hours. I'll put just the last hour worth of data on and show you exactly how fast these storms are moving. So just within the last hour, with them moving at 50 miles per hour, they have made it, no surprise, about 50 or so miles from just off to the west of Champaign, now making their way almost to the eastern reaches of our viewing area in very short order. Normally what you'll see with a thunderstorm is you'll get 2-3 scans on it before you really have to move the radar to catch up with it when you're on a super tight view. These ones have been moving so fast, it's click, scan, move again, click, scan, move again. The good thing about this is that it is the date on the calendar it is, and any type of severe weather that you're going to get is going to be transient, and it's also going to be not on the stronger side of things. That said, looks like we've at least seen an EF0 or maybe an EF1 tornado in Iroquois County, and perhaps extending into southern Kankakee County. They'll send out some survey crews and check that out. I want to draw in the analysis of this just so you can kind of see what's going on. So we've got a cold front. Pretty obvious where that is, right? Extends its way out through Chicago, down, probably moving through St. Louis right now, just judging by the contours. I'd have to check the wind directions, but there's the cold front. North of that, you got a warm front. That warm front extends from Chicago through just south of Detroit, right there. And then you've got a low pressure system that is sitting basically right around the Chicago area. That area of low pressure is making kind of the final little ingredient here. That's spin in the atmosphere, right? A low. All the air spinning around that, and that makes the final ingredient for what we call the triple point. And this is where we want to track severe weather. It's what you want to see if you are looking for severe weather during the springtime, the summertime, and even into the fall time too. This front is moving at 50 or so miles per hour though. So once this front gets through Chicago in about the next half hour, 45 minutes, we'll see our winds pick up. They'll turn out of the west and then eventually northwest, and our temperatures will go into free fall. We'll go from 55 in Chicago all the way down to the teens to around 20 degrees as an air temperature with wind chills that'll get down below zero as we head through about the next half hour, or not half hour rather, the next half day or so, about the next 12 hours. We'll see those temperatures drop off extremely quickly as we get back and through the front. I want to show you here, I'll actually give you a view of what to expect for your planner through the next 2 hours. So we're sitting pretty right now, but by 11 o'clock at night, we're already down to 24 degrees. So within about the next 7 hours, we have our temperatures. We can see some snow showers as we get into 3 a.m. hour, and those temperatures, they only make it back into the lower 20s during the afternoon. Wind chills on our Monday will likely be in the teens to even below zero. So we've got a wind advisory out for Chicago and the entire viewing area for those winds up to 50 or so miles per hour as they turn to the west and northwest, and it'll stay windy as all get out all the way through the course of our Monday. So I want to pull back up that velocity data to see if we've got any rotation that are we concerned about. And we don't see that. But what you do see is, again, the National Weather Service has gone ahead and they have drawn in here just a massive severe thunderstorm warning. This is a severe thunderstorm warning with a tornadic potential tag on it. And that extends all the way down the length of the line. It goes from just south of Knox all the way down to almost Delphi. That's a 50-mile severe thunderstorm watch box. The good news in what you're seeing here is that they have not extended the tornado warning past Jasper County and past Newton County. So that is very good. It's what you want to see. I'm going to spread out the view because while these are still active tornado warnings, I am really convinced that most of the threat is out of the area. I think we'll probably stick with you for another maybe 15 or so minutes just to get the very last of this line of storms through. So yeah, so we're going to wait until the middle of the edge of this storm gets through extreme portions of Jasper County, extreme eastern portions of Jasper County, and then we'll call it quits on this. Even though I know the warning won't technically be over by then, we will be all clear. There'll be no threat to you guys across the viewing area as that happens. So we have got tornado warnings. Again, they officially go until, I want to say 4:45. Okay, good. So for the next 15 minutes, we got severe thunderstorm warnings and tornado warnings out for the viewing area. And as these storms finally do make their way out completely, we'll be able to clear you. But watching the rotation data, there is still signs of at least broad rotation through not only north of Rensselaer, but also south through Mount Ayr. I'm going to draw a couple of arrows here and show you the spots that I'm talking about. Thankfully, most of this now getting behind the line, which is what you want to see because they're now outpacing the line. So Barkley, just off to the west of Barkley, little spot that perhaps could be some broad rotation, and then down near Milroy too. could be a spot of some very broad, but again, I don't want to say tornadic because it just doesn't look like it, rotation. So we got to watch these through about the next 15 or so minutes as they clear the eastern fringe of the viewing area. And they're doing so pretty quickly at about 50 or so miles per hour. So I'm going to draw a new box, give you some new towns to consider here. Clear the old one and put the new one on. And again, these are moving at about 50 miles per hour. So Wheatfield, Rensselaer, down to Carpenter, still want to take your tornado precautions through at least the next about 15 or so minutes. And there you go. I would say within about the next 10 or 12 minutes, these will be completely out of the county. So that's Barkley at 4:32. It's Carpenter at 4:33. So within the next few minutes. Again, I said they're right overhead for you guys. Railroad at 4:40. And then 5:45, that switches over to Eastern time. That's why the big jump there for White Post. So watching these for the better part of the next about 15 or so minutes as that tornado warning does continue. Areas that have been cleared from the tornado warning, again, we cleared you guys a little while ago, but officially cleared is all of Kankakee County, the reason that we came on the air in the first place, and all two of we'll call it all. Most, rather, of Newton County, which is in northwest Indiana. Newton County is this one, and then this one is Jasper County. So Jasper County still dealing with the last throes of this line, which at this point is not looking too great in terms of producing tornadoes, but there still are severe thunderstorms, and there is the potential that we see a little bit of rotation out of these. Again, not the top of mind, highest concern, but as we take a look at live Doppler 7 Max, there are just a couple of spots that we want to watch to make sure that they don't end up rotating again. In terms of moving forward here through tonight and into tomorrow, I'll show you Futurecast, and you'll see this at the news at 5 o'clock. So we were watching the storms. They originated back here at about the 3:45 to 4 o'clock hour. It really wasn't too long ago that we watched these storms originate. Now they're continuing to move very quickly. By 8 o'clock tonight, they are completely out of the area. A complete afterthought really by about 6 o'clock for the entire area. They're gone by then. They're probably into Indianapolis by about 7 o'clock Eastern time at that point. And then we watch the snow that potentially moves in later on tonight. There's a winter weather advisory out for LaPorte County right here. So you got Lake County, Porter County, LaPorte County. You could see up to 6 inches of snow in southern portions of Michigan, northern LaPorte County, lake effect snow as this low rotates overhead. And all the storms are, of course, out at that point, but very quickly the cold air moves in, and we could catch a quick burst of snow that reduces visibility early on our Monday morning. This is before a lot of us wake up on Monday, but notice that lake effect machine starts kicking in, and we could see that up to 6 inches of snowfall, extreme southern Michigan, and then down into northern portions of Indiana too. Michigan City could potentially see that 3 to 6 inches of lake effect snow. Lots of spots. Long Beach is out there too, Sawyer, all those spots up again, up across the Michigan waterfront, Lake Michigan waterfront, could potentially see a decent amount of shovelable snow by early Monday morning. That's how diverse and extreme this system is. Chicago's temperature by 2 o'clock in the afternoon on Monday, 23 degrees. We're sitting near 60 degrees now. That's how fast we're going to drop. I think early on our Monday morning, those temperatures will be sub-zero with wind chills, and then air temperatures themselves drop into the teens to about 20 degrees by later on Monday evening. Single digits on our doorstep, but they don't quite make it all the way in here. So this is a pretty diverse system, and through the next couple of hours, as that front officially makes its way all the way through Chicago, the winds will pick up even downtown, and we'll see winds that are anywhere from 25 to 35 miles per hour sustained and gust up to 55 or 60 miles per hour as I hear a rumble of thunder out over Chicago. Now, again, we came on the air because we were watching not only severe thunderstorms, but also a confirmed tornado that was in northern Iroquois County, and the tornado warning for that confirmed tornado that extended into southern portions of Kankakee County. Now that threat has fallen by the wayside for the most part. But basically, we are babysitting a couple of storms that still have a tornado warning that are eking their way out of Newton and Jasper counties at this time. If you live in Newton County in northwest Indiana, you are basically out of this tornado concern at this point. There's still a little bit left of that storm that you need to be concerned with right about here. Again, the very eastern fringe of your county, Percy Junction and Goodland. Storms over you now. A lot of thunder, a lot of lightning,
probably a decent amount of wind. You got about 5 minutes to go. Good news is we've been watching the rotation on the radar. Of course, I would have been more concerned with that than snow, is that I haven't really seen any rotation on the radar for over you folks. Now, as you move up a little bit farther off to the north, spots like Rensselaer and Jordan, you should still be taking your tornado precautions. If you live in Milroy, same type of deal, your tornado precautions through at least about the next 15 or 20 or so minutes before these storms do finally completely roll all out. Here is the last 30 minutes worth of radar data, just so you can get a picture of how fast these storms are moving. Again, moving at the pace that they're moving at, you got about 15 minutes at the very most, probably closer to about 10 minutes until these are completely out of the viewing area and not a problem anymore. Officially, this warning goes until, I want to say 4:45. Yep, 4:45. Probably going to be able to get out of your hair within about the next, probably 4:45, 10 or so minutes until these storms do completely get out of those counties. So I do want to go back and just take a look at the velocity data because there is, areas of interest that are still in here. Very weak rotation out near the Barkley to Guilford area. Perhaps some weak rotation out near the Wheatfield area too, although that looks better than it was the last couple of scans. Let me back up a couple scans. You can see that. So you can see, again, greens next to reds are what we are looking for. So here's a broad area of where there's some green, right? Some winds that are going towards the radar, and then we've got winds that are going away from the radar. And those, as they get close to each other, do create enough rotation. Then in the lower levels of the atmosphere, we can see a brief spin up. I haven't seen any reports. This is from Iroquois County, so that's earlier on. Southern Newton County. Just looking at the areas of rotation. Okay, cool. They're looking at the same spots that I am. So right around the Goodland area, as I mentioned, and out near Wheatfield too. So we're watching these two broad areas of rotation. Really nothing that screams tornado on the ground at me, and especially as we look at the, well, we can pull it up for you. We can look at the debris signature, and there's nothing. You can see debris signatures when tornadoes start picking things up on the ground. See how this is kind of a uniform color? That just says to me fairly large raindrops, really nothing out of the ordinary the radar seeing. If you want to see a debris signature, we'll go back about half an hour, 45 minutes ago and into northern portions of Iroquois County, because this is what brought us on the air. And you can see that probably pretty clearly, especially right there. There we go. I'll zoom in for you. That just off to the south of St. Anne. So this is southern Kankakee County. This is what brought us on the air, by the way. This is northern Iroquois County. This is a debris signature. So the radar saw what we saw reported, that barn get blown apart by winds, pieces of the roof, 2x4s, stuff like that, get picked up into the air, and they just light up like a Christmas tree on the radar. That is not the very broad area of red that I was talking about. So that was a sure bet tornado warning, and that is why we've extended this tornado warning so far down the stream, because once tornadoes cycle once, the line that likes to produce them will usually cycle a couple of other times. So again, keeping your eyes on this spot. I'll put a little arrow next to it. That's when the tornado was on the ground, confirmed on the ground, creating damage. There's that debris. Notice how it gets more diffuse. I'll toggle between those two. See how it gets a little bit more diffuse there? That is quite literally the debris getting lofted up in the atmosphere and spreading out as it does so. And the signal becoming weaker, but still, chunks of shingles, chunks of barn being spread out all over the place. Sometimes mail gets picked up, stuff like that, weird stuff. And there you can see that debris signature continue, and then the line overruns it. Right, the line of thunderstorms is moving fast, that debris is kind of lagging behind, and it falls off kind of through the back of the line. You can see that as it got out towards just south of Lake Village, and as it made its way across the state border into northwest Indiana. And if you want to follow that debris, or at least in the upper levels of the atmosphere, kind of there it is through the Wheatfield area, and then falling completely off the radar by then. So what's good is that we haven't seen any new debris signatures through at least the last 45 minutes to half hour or so. So we're not worried about an actual tornado on the ground at this point, but again, we're watching very closely the areas of rotation that have been sitting on the radar. If you're in Rensselaer, getting close to that time where you're finally able to go ahead and get out of taking your tornado precautions. Same deal down in Carpenter. But if you live a little bit farther off to the east of that, Barkley, Milroy, Hanging Grove, you still do want to take your tornado precautions, because while we're not seeing that really solid rotation, we are, as you'll notice the radar switched on me here, We are seeing broader areas of rotation within the line. So that radar is coming out of here, which is off to our east, just south of Turkey Creek. That's another National Weather Service's radar. Weber, I believe, is where that is located. So this is getting some pretty high levels of the atmosphere. You notice how it changed back to that red color. This is getting slightly lower cut of the atmosphere. And there is still both of those radars, again, as I spread, we're right between radar sites there, are picking up that same very broad area of rotation just outside of Wheatfield and making its way soon, it's only a couple miles out, of crossing the Newton County line and getting out of our viewing area. It's honestly almost 4 miles out, and these are moving at about 50 or so miles per hour. So it's not much longer that we have to stick with these, about 4 or so more minutes here until that tornado warning does get expired. So I do appreciate everybody's patience. Again, I said this at the beginning, as we continue to watch this. It doesn't matter where in our viewing area a tornado warning comes up. It could be on the very southern fringe of Kankakee County. It could be on the very southern fringe of Newton and Jasper County. It could be in the middle of Cook County. People live everywhere across our viewing area. Everybody equally is important. I'm very aware that these are less densely populated spots, and folks in Chicago might be like, why are you interrupting golf for Northwest Indiana? I would do the same to folks in Northwest Indiana if it was happening over downtown Chicago. So keeping that in mind, again, I know I've been on the air for quite some time talking about some honestly not great rotation aside from the beginning, but that's what we do, right? We get the word out ahead of time and make sure that everybody stays safe. Of note, which is crazy because these storms are so low, that little spot that you see just north of Gillum, just north of Guilford, kind of right near where the arrow is for tornado warning, that is an area that the radar is saying there might be some hail. Now, the hail, because these storms are so low-topped, is going to be very small. Pea-sized, dime-sized. I don't think we get anything to nickel-sized. Not damaging hail, but since it is December, the freezing level in the atmosphere is really low, so you're able to get the hail out of these low-top thunderstorms. It's just not going to be that giant quarter-sized or golf ball or even tennis ball-sized hail that we see from time to time across the area. So we got 3 more minutes left on this tornado warning. We'll stick with you for the next 3 minutes. You'll notice, by the way, that the National Weather Service has continued that tornado warning out of our viewing area, but out of eastern portions of Jasper County and then into the county next to it, which is Pulaski County and White County. Again, that's out of our viewing area, so we don't stay on for that. But that just goes to show that that system, which was way back here and started getting warnings way back here, is of enough concern and is still producing enough rotation that they deemed it necessary to keep that tornado warning going. Totally get it. Again, not the best rotation on radar, but what is it? Once bitten, twice, wow, can't even remember it. Twice scared, whatever. Anyway, you know what I'm trying to say. They don't want to get bit by this one again and see another area of rotation come up and produce a confirmed tornado. I showed you the debris signature from it a little while ago. So, Rensselaer, Jordan, you guys are on the back side of this. You can go ahead and come out of your tornado safe places. Milroy and Hanging Grove, you still got about 2 or 3 minutes left. And then the leading edge, which is really the edge that we're most concerned of for tornadic development, kind of right here, that leading edge. This will be completely through you, and then we won't be worried about tornadic. In a sense, we'll just be worried about a severe thunderstorm as that rolls overhead. Some gusts could be up to 40 or even 45 miles per hour, and then gusts out here in the clear air, where there's nothing going on the radar, are going to be 50 or so miles per hour when that colder air starts to build in. And that'll be something that we talk about here in about a minute coming up at 5 o'clock. The fact that we will see temperatures drop by some 20 or 25 degrees just over the course of a couple of hours. So with that, 5 o'clock is when we'll be back on air. I'll have a full weather forecast. We'll have a wrap up. I'll gather any pictures of damage that may be across the area or into portions of Iroquois County. And I'll bring you your latest forecast, your 7 days. We look ahead towards the new year because this is system number 1. There may be another system moving in for New Year's Eve. Good news is that it'll be plenty cold enough that we won't be interrupting with your tornado warnings, but we will indeed be talking about the potential of some snow and possibly sub-zero wind chills. Again, that'll be New Year's Eve and into New Year's Day. So with that, with the tornado warning finally expiring here at 4:45, I'm going to let you guys go back to programming, and I'm going to grab a drink of water, and I'll see you again at 5 o'clock.
See.